On this special episode, I'm taking you along the San Gabriel River deep into the Sheep Canyon wilderness with my brother from another mother, the Tank. We're heading back to the legendary Bridge to Nowhere and firing up a Tomahawk Ribeye with one of the most epic backdrops you can imagine. Even share the feast with some fellow adventurers we met along the way. You won't want to miss this unforgettable day in the San Gabriels. The Bridge to Nowhere trail is about 10 miles round trip with roughly 900 feet of elevation gain. Ever since the bridge fire recently burned through the canyon, it's been super exposed with little to no shade. Make sure to always bring at least 3 liters of water, sunscreen, and be prepared for some hot conditions along the way. What up, everybody? I have a special episode for you guys today. I'm out here again with the Tank. This is about our 4th week in a row hiking together, and right now we are hiking to the Bridge to Nowhere. The Bridge to Nowhere is located in Southern California. This episode I'm going to be cooking a Tomahawk Ribeye rib chop at the Bridge to Nowhere, so I'm super excited about that. I do want to warn you guys a little bit of caution when parking at this trailhead. There were some sketchy individuals there.
Yeah, just when you're hiking, make sure always you're cautious of your safety and what your surroundings are around you. There were some people in the parking lot. Some questionable character traits. You want to be aware of that. Who's watching you, what you're doing. So always make sure you have at least a knife on you or something, or if you can always go in 2 pairs. Make sure you do that. Stay with somebody as you're hiking, but even if you have to go it alone, make sure you're cautious, make sure you're aware of your safety, aware of your surroundings. Practice situational awareness is what we call it. So be safe, continue hiking.
This is a beautiful hike. I can't wait to check it out. It's been closed for about 6 or 7 months now, and it just reopened, so let's go check it out. The Bridge to Nowhere sits on the San Gabriel River, a place full of history dating back to 1855. As a matter of fact, this canyon kicked off Southern California's second gold rush. Within just a few years, miners had staked claims along nearly 40 miles of the river. Between 1855 and 1902, more than $5 million worth of gold was pulled out of these waters. In today's market, that value would be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I usually like to break this hike up into 3 parts. The first mile until you get to the first stream crossing, the next 3 miles along the stream, and then the last mile is from the stream, and it's probably the most uphill part, which is to the Bridge to Nowhere. We did this hike in the summertime, so the water level was a little low, but when the snowpack starts to melt in spring, or when big storms roll through, all that water can really start flowing down the canyon, and water levels can get dangerously high. This is my 2nd time doing the Bridge to Nowhere hike, and this is the Tank's first time being back here. When I first started hiking, people used to tell me, go do the Bridge to Nowhere, do the Bridge to Nowhere, and I used to put it off, but it's super fun. It's one of my favorite hikes now. The water levels usually get really high, and you can almost see the levels of the water. So right now the water is pretty low, but it's still moving really fast, which is nice. A lot of people have been rescued from this trail. The river is always changing with the water level, so be smart. Download the map before you go. There's lots of different little routes that you can take, but there's lots of routes that you take that are harder to pass and you have to turn back, and that kind of just happened to us. There is little purple arrows on rocks that you can follow that help, but definitely download the map. The Bridge to Nowhere is actually one of 3 bridges that were built in this canyon. It's the only one that survived the Great Flood of 1938. The others were swept away, and here is one of the remnants from a bridge that didn't make it. It's really crazy to me to think that there was once so much water here that it wiped out an entire concrete bridge. Well, that great flood in 1938 was caused by an unusual heavy snowpack and followed by weeks of warm weather and pounding rain. That chain of events turned these local canyons into raging rivers. The water rose to unimaginable heights and speeds powerful enough to take the bridge with it. All right, we got our feet wet. I put down the map for 1 second and we overpassed where we were supposed to cross the stream. So it's really good to pay attention to your map as you go. But we're back on track here. One of my favorite things about this trail is how quickly the scenery changes. 1 minute you're crossing the river, the next minute you're walking through a forest, and then before you know it, you're back in the desert, scrambling up and down rocks. It keeps the hike super exciting the whole way through. I really want to mention that those arrows really help you find your way. About 3.5 miles into the hike, you enter the Sheep Mountain Wilderness, one of the most remote and desolate sections of the Angeles National Forest. We're about 1.5 miles from the bridge. Super beautiful hike. It definitely looks a lot different than the last time I was on it. But if you kind of look behind me, you can see a lot of the burn area that came through here. And it's a lot less burnt down than I was expecting. There's a lot of regrowth, which is really, really nice. But it looks like we're definitely going through a burn scar where it came through the fire, the bridge fire. So really interesting stuff. A lot of green on the side of the mountains where there's a lot of regrowth too.
All the time. I've been. You know what?
I think that was about our third stream crossing. We got less than 1 mile to the bridge to nowhere. I can't wait to show you guys how to cook my famous Tomahawk Ribeye rib chop at the bridge to nowhere. Let's go check it out. A fun fact about the Tank and me is that we've actually known each other our whole lives. Our dads were best friends and his parents are my godparents. We grew up together and later in life, hiking brought us even closer. That last part right behind me was super narrow and super dangerous. Like one fall and you're done because the river is right below couple 100 feet and it was just like a steep drop, so I'm kind of surprised that it was that dangerous right now, but we're almost there. This is one of my favorite parts of the hike. The canyon walls rise steeply all around, creating this dramatic passageway. You also have to keep an eye out because bighorn sheep love to roam all along these cliffs. The Tank and I made it to the bridge to nowhere. There's no one here today. Just the owner actually we were talking to was giving us a lot of information. He was telling us that this is one of the oldest bungee jumping sites on all the continents in the world is what he was saying. I guess it was invented in 1980. Really rad. We're gonna go down a little bit underneath the bridge on the other side, and I'm going to show you guys how to cook my famous Tomahawk Ribeye rib chop. We made it to the bridge to nowhere. It is beautiful down here. We're surrounded by this beautiful canyon. And right now, I'm gonna show you guys how to cook my famous Tomahawk Ribeye rib chop. Let's get started. All right, so the first thing I always do before I start cooking is lay out all of my ingredients and tools. That means knives, tongs, salt, pepper, and some kind of fat. Today I'm using salted butter, but usually I prefer olive oil. And of course, the main attraction, this Tomahawk Ribeye. I like to have everything ready so I don't have to go digging around once I'm in the middle of cooking. Once everything's ready, before we even turn on the pan, we're gonna season this steak really well on both sides. The thicker the cut, the more generous I am with the salt and pepper. It really helps build that perfect crust. Now that the pan's been heating for about 30 seconds, I'm dropping in about an 1/8 cup of butter to get the perfect sear. Honestly, if it were up to me, I'd throw in a whole stick, but since my wife's watching, I'll behave and stick to just an 1/8. A tomahawk like this usually takes about 20 minutes, so it's a lot of letting it sit, flipping it, and letting it sit again, slowly building that crust. Man, nothing beats the sound of a giant steak sizzling in the pan, especially right next to a river with an incredible view. What I'm doing here is basting the steak with its own juices and fat. This locks in the moisture and makes the steak come out extra juicy. It's actually a little French technique I picked up back at Le Cordon Bleu Culinary School. The steak is almost ready. This is probably the most beautiful place I've ever cooked. I can't wait to cut into this steak. We're getting super hungry. It's really hot out here today. I'm cooking on what's called a pocket rocket stove. It's a tried and true ultralight backpacking stove made by MSR. I like to switch things up sometimes and use a BioLite stove too, but today the pocket rocket's doing the job. the steak is done. I'm gonna kind of leave it on the pan and let it rest so that the bloods kind of drain out, and then we're gonna cut into it. Right as I was slicing into the steak, I noticed some college kids hanging out down by the river. It took me back to when I was their age exploring Stoddard Falls with all the boys. And honestly, if I were their age and saw some guy cooking up a tomahawk steak out here, I'd definitely want to try a piece. That was a Tomahawk Ribeye rib chop at Bridge to Nowhere. I hope you enjoyed it. I know we did. It was delicious. We're gonna head back to the truck. Let's go check it out. We got about 5 miles left here. The hike back is always the best part. Full from an amazing meal and just soaking in the sense of accomplishment. Moments like this remind me why I love getting out here. Good food, good friends, good views, and a little adventure along the way. We're almost back to the trucks. What a beautiful day. It just got like really hot out, but it was definitely a good workout. Yeah, we both had a good time out here. I highly recommend the Bridge to Nowhere. Remember, if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more hiking and cooking outdoors, please subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys next episode.